Everyday stories, captivating tales from everyday life to inspire, entertain, and connect.
On the evening of October 15, 2023, Officers Lawson and Morales were dispatched to Dolce Lounge, a popular nightlife venue located in Elizabeth, New Jersey, in response to a reported dispute between a patron and the staff. Upon their arrival, the officers met with security personnel, who explained that the individual involved in the altercation, Clementina U. D. Galana, had become agitated after learning about the establishment's entrance cover charge. Security informed the officers that Clementina had approached the door and initially asked about the charge, but things quickly escalated from there. She was told the price of the cover charge, but her reaction was not one of simple acceptance. Instead, she insisted on speaking with the manager to get more details. Security personnel explained that Clementina was not happy with the cover charge and began a conversation with the manager, which later turned into a back-and-forth argument. The security staff stated that at no point did things get physical, but the verbal exchange became heated enough that they decided it was best to ask Clementina to leave. However, Clementina was not prepared to leave quietly. According to Clementina, the situation took a very different turn. When she spoke with the manager, she claimed that she was not treated fairly or respectfully. She argued that after simply asking about the cover charge and requesting to speak with the manager to clarify what kind of experience she would be getting for her money, she was met with hostility and physical aggression. Clementina said that instead of simply answering her questions, the staff began to shout at her, use offensive language, and call her names. She even claimed that one of the staff members approached her in an aggressive manner, walking toward her as if to intimidate her. Clementina felt that this type of behavior was not only unprofessional, but also targeted her unfairly. According to her account, she was harassed and physically threatened for no reason other than questioning the cover charge and wanting to ensure she was getting what she paid for. She was adamant about wanting to press charges for the assault and harassment she believed she had experienced. Clementina, who identified herself as an attorney, also insisted that the incident be fully documented for both criminal and civil purposes. She stated that she was willing to spend money at the establishment, but expected a certain level of service and respect in return. Her frustration with the situation mounted as she described the feeling of being treated unfairly and not receiving the service she had expected when entering the venue. The officers tried to calm her down, explaining that based on the initial information, they could not make an arrest for assault, as no physical violence had been reported. Instead, the officers suggested that Clementina file a formal complaint, and they offered to take a report about the incident. However, Clementina's insistence on pressing charges did not subside. She demanded that the establishment's security footage be reviewed to prove her claims. Clementina continued to argue that she was racially profiled when she entered the lounge, implying that her treatment was based on her appearance and assumptions about her. She repeatedly referred to herself as an attorney and made it clear that she was prepared to pursue legal action if necessary. Her request for security footage seemed to fuel her anger further, as she believed that this footage would reveal the truth about how she was mistreated. As the conversation continued, it became clear that Clementina was not going to leave without ensuring that her version of events was fully documented. She made it known that she was not interested in simply walking away from the situation without some form of justice. The officers, while trying to remain patient and professional, explained that they could only assist within the bounds of their duties. They explained that they could not force the venue to release the security footage unless a criminal investigation was initiated, which would require evidence of a crime. They also explained that she needed to cooperate with the situation, but Clementina's frustration only grew as she felt the officers were dismissing her claims. She continued to demand that her report be written and that her side of the story be fully documented, but she also refused to comply with requests to leave the premises. She was told that she would need to leave the premises or face being placed under arrest for trespassing. As the situation escalated, the officers made it clear that Clementina would either leave the lounge on her own or they would have to remove her forcibly. Despite the officers' repeated attempts to de-escalate the situation, Clementina refused to cooperate. She argued that she needed more time, that she wasn't ready to leave, and that the officers were rushing her. At one point, she even remarked that she had waited over an hour already and was entitled to more time. She seemed to believe that her personal timeline took precedence over the officers' instructions. The officers made it clear that they would not allow her to remain at the venue indefinitely. She was asked to leave multiple times, but each time, Clementina refused, insisting that the situation needed to be resolved first. The officers reiterated that if she did not leave voluntarily, they would have no choice but to place her under arrest for trespassing. They also warned her that if her behavior continued to escalate, more serious charges could be applied. Eventually, after a prolonged standoff, Clementina's behavior became increasingly confrontational. She began to raise her voice, and her defiance turned physical. At one point, Clementina physically resisted the officers' attempts to get her to leave, even striking one of the officers with her shoulder as she attempted to move past them. This was when the officers decided that enough was enough. Backup officers were called to the scene to assist with the arrest, as Clementina's resistance was preventing the situation from being resolved peacefully. The officers explained to her that if she continued to resist, she would face charges beyond trespassing. However, Clementina continued to argue with them and refused to comply. After the backup officers arrived, they were able to place Clementina under arrest for trespassing and aggravated assault. As she was led outside to the patrol car, she continued to argue with the officers, making threats and expressing frustration. She was told that if she continued to resist, the situation could escalate further. Clementina, undeterred, made it clear that she was not ready to leave the scene and that she felt she had been mistreated. As she was being placed in the patrol car, she became increasingly agitated, demanding that her personal property, including her jacket, be handed to her. She also made repeated references to her legal expertise, asserting that she had the right to be treated differently from other patrons. Despite her claims of mistreatment, the officers proceeded with the arrest. During the transport to the station, Clementina's behavior did not improve. She continued to argue and refused medical attention when it was offered to her. At the station, she became physically disruptive once more, refusing to comply with booking procedures. Despite being informed that she would need to be restrained for processing, Clementina resisted and demanded to be released. The officers explained that in order to proceed, she would have to cooperate, but her behavior remained hostile. She continued to resist being handcuffed and restrained, leading to further complications in the booking process. Ultimately, she was placed in a holding cell after being shackled, but she continued to be uncooperative and disruptive. Clementina's arrest was officially recorded as being for trespassing and 2 counts of aggravated assault after she physically struck one of the officers. Despite her ongoing resistance, she was not able to avoid the charges and was informed that she would be processed and held until further legal action could be taken. Throughout the entire ordeal, Clementina's behavior demonstrated a consistent refusal to cooperate with law enforcement and a growing sense of frustration with the situation as it unfolded. What began as a minor dispute over an entrance cover charge at a nightclub turned into a full-blown confrontation with the police, resulting in multiple charges, an arrest, and a series of events that would have serious consequences for Clementina. Her insistence on escalating the situation and her refusal to comply with the officers' instructions led to a rapid escalation of events that could have been avoided if she had chosen to cooperate early on. Instead, the night ended with her facing charges that would need to be addressed through the legal system, turning what could have been a routine evening out into a much more complicated and serious situation.